Hi, everybody. So, we are diving into some really fun creativity this week, and we're going to do a focus on art journaling because I think it's one of those really awesome and approachable types of crafting that has no rules. You can make it what you want. And I wanted to introduce you to some of the materials and tools that I'm going to be using so it might give you some ideas of things that you can incorporate into yours. Art journaling is just really whatever you want to make it. There's just no rules or a standard list of items to use. But these are things that I tend to reach for pretty much all the time when I do any kind of crafting. I really genuinely love punching paper, all kinds of different shapes, and then just kind of creating my own little paper punch buffet. That's kind of my signature thing. And I use all kinds of, materials to do that. So creating embellishments is a really fun and inexpensive way that I love to craft. And I have these little jewelry organizers that I got on Amazon that I use for sorting all of my little materials. I love these. Now I have two types of paper punch buffets. One of them is a little white tray, and then there are these larger trays. So these, they're larger. They take up a bit more space. This is not for crafting. This is for drinking. But I love how I've set them up. I reach for these a lot when I'm doing paper crafting. So I wanted to kind of introduce you to some of the ways I've organized things or some of the elements that I like to use standard. So this paper punch buffet is one of the things that I use consistently in my crafting. And speaking of paper, I also keep a kind of a scrap box of all kinds of ephemera, pieces of scrapbook paper, maps, torn pages from books and magazines. There's ephemera I've purchased, like scrapbook collections often have vintage cards like this. I think this all came from like a set from Jelly Bean Soup, and it was all it's supposed to look like it's vintage, but it's been manufactured by a scrapbook company. I love this stuff. It's really sturdy cardstock, and then you can purchase like for realsies kind of forms like I do on eBay and Etsy. There's all kinds of sellers that will collect old ephemera at estate sales and they'll sell it. They'll like package it up into groups. I love decorating with this kind of stuff. I think a lot of us are drawn to vintage. So I have these like receipts and little forms that I bought off of an eBay seller. I like to use these. I love using like office paper, forms, old letters. I even took some stuff from my mom, things she had from years and years, like decades of like kind of hoarding it in a box. Notes that she wrote, all kinds of stuff with her handwriting. So I took some of those from her. I have like printables in here from my shop that I just kind of threw in here. This is from like my Simple Stories collaboration. I remember designing that. How cute. The little dashboard collection was my favorite thing. Like I sketched each one out. I'm not a graphic designer, but I can sketch. And I just remember how much I loved doing these. I'll probably incorporate that one into today's little project. So as you can see, I have just like a variety of things. This is like one of the little scrap packs that I purchased off of Etsy. I think this was from the Paper Basket on Etsy. A little note paper someone gave me a long time ago. And I have this like little piece of ephemera that I've been holding on to forever because I actually have a cousin whose name is printed on it. So I thought that was really funny. So I was thinking I was probably going to wait until I had like a picture of him I could use. So it's just super randomy stuff. Like there's no rhyme or reason. And honestly, I encourage everyone to have a scrap box that you just have no rhyme or reason for what it has, because it's kind of like a little treasure trove. sometimes I'll find stuff that like a company will send me as part of like their packaging or marketing pieces inside that are worth using. Here's another little pack. This came from Ekra on Etsy. This little shop does nothing but packs of maps, which I love decorating with maps. I'm going to set that one aside. So lots of interesting weirdo pieces. I personally really like this. Here's a envelope from a Viewmaster. I cut a Viewmaster up a few weeks ago. I might incorporate the pocket somehow. So this would be an example of, you know, when you gather your things and just kind of journal cards, you know, stickers, scraps from magazines. And when you kind of toss things together in a box, it kind of feels like you're just letting those little pieces tell a story. Here's a picture of Doris Day making a funny face. I love her. I also have a picture of Audrey Hepburn. So that's the one thing I love about art journaling, is just how no rules it is, and just having fun with your stuff. It is the best way to use up stash as far as I'm concerned. Here's another pack that I bought that's just a bunch of like food advertising that I thought would be fun to mess around with. I've also bought like lots of vintage magazines off of eBay that you can just tear up and use the advertising for projects like this. So I have a scrap box that I keep materials in. Then I have my own like stickers. So I keep a whole like collection of stickers up here, but most of them are TRG. I don't TRG, and then I have a bunch of alpha stickers from other companies. The layering circles are just my favorite. They are just so fun to use in random projects and for highlighting and using with the little word strips. So I always keep a supply of those handy. This is the Reset Your Goals kit with the stamp set and everything. I transferred all of it into a box. Here's the little planner tabs. So I was going to incorporate some of these pieces into my work because I love the color palette and I love like the positive little messages. So I have this handy in a box. Sometimes I'll separate my stickers into different like little packs. And in this case, I had some candy boxes that I got from a store in Tennessee that I thought were just so adorable. So I put different types of stickers into each box, and then I'll grab them randomly and just challenge myself. Use the stickers that are in this box somehow into your artwork. So that is why these are on the menu today. Washi, of course, makes a wonderful accent, and you know, a lot of us have a lot of washi options. It's really easy to purchase nowadays. And I also wanted to incorporate, I have two new punches that I'm using that are being added to the Paper Punch Buffet collection. This tag punch and this heart punch, and both of these are listed in the supplies list because we have some fun printables coming to the store that use these. So I wanted to incorporate them today into my work because I love this tag, and I've never really been a big fan of hearts, but I think hearts are fun when you punch, like when you use them for like maps and, you know, interesting like forms, you know, vintage paper. I feel like then I kind of like it, but usually I feel like it's a little too cutesy for me. But I want to give it a spin because I just got it. I have another box here that's also randomy stuff. This is one of the boxes, oops, that my Carpe Diem came in. So the Carpe Diem planner. So I used a bunch of these boxes to just keep randomy storage products. This is from the Faithful Girl collection that TRG produces. So I have stickers in here, word strips. I have labels. I have these fun little vellum numbers. I have this cute little sheet of emoji stickers I've been hoarding. I have random playing cards. So just like super fun, even like little yearbook pictures from a yearbook that I cut up. Just little fun bits and pieces. Tags and tickets. I also got these from Etsy. So there's so many ways to like build a little stash box that you could use in your art journaling. And you can see that it's all very random. This, again, is a wonderful way to like burn through your stash, to use up things that are kind of like taking up space, because sometimes just the art of just making stuff is fun in and of itself. I also have this little file. I got this from TJ Maxx, and it's like a stationery file, like you can put files in it. It's like an accordion file. And what I have in here right now are printables from my store. And whoop, like these are from the camp. This is the Camp Reset stuff. So I printed some of these out and put them in my little file folder so I could grab. I'm going to take that one out so I remember. I love the big giant word strips. I think those are so fun. So here is one of my organization tools that I use, which is, this is meant to be like portable, and it has a little strappy on it. So I love these type of stationery file folders. They also have them in like plastic. This one's made by Mead. Pretty sure I got this at Target. I'm almost positive I got this at Target. So it has a little band, and then you open it up, and it's an expanding file. So you can keep all kinds of printables, papers. I like putting like magazine pages in here. So having one of these is also nice. Plus it's portable and you can take it with you. If you go to craft with a friend, if you do like a crop. Another element I wanted to tie in today was some paint. So I have kind of like a thick acrylic type paint, which you can buy these at Target. But there's all kinds of craft hobby paint out there. You don't have to buy this specific brand. I just think this stuff, it's just so pretty, isn't it? Like the packaging, all of it, it just has like a very Martha Stewart-esque look to it. And they killed it with the color palette. So I had to get some. They're not expensive, although they are more expensive than the kind of like craft paint you'll find at Hobby Lobby and Michael's. But I went ahead and I'm going to use some of these. And then I got myself a watercolor palette. I cannot remember where I got this, and it's an odd company name, and I can't remember what it is. But I love this palette. Like it took me a while to pull the trigger on even buying one, because I know there's so many out there now. But I really loved this. It was like the perfect mix of the purples too, which isn't even a favorite color of mine. But I really wanted to have some of the shades of like fuchsia in there. So I loved this palette. It was inexpensive. So having some just like an inexpensive watercolor palette is a nice extra tool to have in your little toolbox for doing art journaling. And then a brush of some kind. So I got one of those water brushes where you keep the water inside the brush. So I use it both with the acrylic paint and this type of paint. But honestly, the way I usually put acrylic paint on there is by scraping it. And I just use the plastic card, which you can get like one of the membership cards from a store. Like an old card. But I just use that, and I'm going to demonstrate it later in the video. But I wanted to kind of go over some of the elements that I really love incorporating. I have some stamp pads too that are also, these are planner friendly. This is the Prima Chalk Edgers. Now Prima is not going to be making these in the future. They discontinued them. So what is out there in the marketplace is all that's going to be available. So I highly recommend these. I have loved these. I've put them in all of my kits, my workshop kits. I've sold them individually in my listers kits. I have been a fan of these, and definitely a big promoter of them for the last few years. So if you see them, and I don't think I've ever seen them in a store, but you can buy them online. But I would grab them now if you are interested. What's fabulous about them is the shape makes them really easy to get. They're really easy to use, and they're chalk. so they don't bleed through your page. I am so sad that Prima is not going to make them anymore. But you can use them, like get in there with that little tip and get, you know, the surface of your stamp really saturated. They make a lot of colors, but I really stick to the dark colors. I'm kind of boring that way, but I really just like the simple, you know, the plain old black, maybe a charcoal gray. But these are part of my toolbox. So I have like a box of extras that hopefully will last me a while. But these are fun, just having a set of stamp pads to work with, and then a few stamps. Now, I love roller stamps. I love them because they're imperfect. They are deliberately, I think they're just inherently messy. So I don't even try to be, you know, stamp perfectly with them because they just don't come out that way. And I think when you accept that, I think it makes it, and I think it's just a better relationship between you and your roller stamp. And then I always incorporate some type of like acrylic stamp, and I keep a little selection nearby. So those are some of the other extra pieces that I kind of blend into my crafting. Sometimes, depending on what I'm working on, I'll also use elements that I want to like journal on. So I might add a little piece of note paper or a receipt or a library card, and I'll actually do my journaling on this because the page I'm working on is so covered in other elements that this becomes the writing surface. So I'll show you again how I incorporate things like that. So that's pretty much it for my toolbox. I try to keep, because I really thought about this, and I think it's worth thinking about in general, is kind of give some thought to the type of crafter you are. Some people are kind of all over the board. They like a little of this and a little of that. And I've really kind of narrowed it down for myself. I'm really just a general paper crafter. I love layering things. I love layering paper and adding some paint and a stamp. And it doesn't have to mean anything or be like an extraordinary work of art. It's just the act of putting the shapes and pieces together in an interesting way. I think that is what I really enjoy. And sometimes I'll get something great out of it, especially when I incorporate, you know, one of my honeys, or, you know, adding a message or a scripture or a quote. Those are the things that I can do that all day long. It's just it's a very fun and relaxing way to self-care and using my creativity while I do it. But I think there is kind of a challenge sometimes when you're kind of going down the road of exploring, you know, what I'm good at, what do I like. I think because a lot of us have come from the planner community, we've gotten a bit comfortable, at least, with the idea of the planner. And I think what's going to be fun, let's all look at this as fun about art journaling is we've taken all the lines off. You know, there's not this like special puzzle that you're filling in all the little squares and rectangles with a shape, with a sticker, with a piece of washi. That's what's kind of fun about the planner page, is it has this kind of framework built right into it. So, you know, when you do art journaling, oftentimes you're working on a blank page, or, I mean, and you don't have to. You can work on lined pages, grid paper. You could work directly on a magazine page if you wanted to. There's many different ways to do it. But I think in this exercise, us working from a blank page, it's kind of, it's going to be a fun challenge. Part of it is getting over the fear of the white page. And part of it is kind of embracing it and experimenting, like looking at this as like a laboratory. Look at now obviously I decorated these, but look at your art journal activity as a laboratory of things that you're trying to explore to see what you like. Don't look at this as I'm making my life's work. This is going to be the best page I've ever made ever. Go into this like you're a kindergartner. You know, if you get very if you get a little anxious about facing a white page, if you start, that little voice in your head starts telling you that, you know, you're not talented enough, creative enough to figure this out. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. This often gives a deer in the headlights kind of response. And I say that because that's true of me as well. I would say this has been my greatest challenge in being creative in my life as a whole is just fearing this big white expanse. What do I even do? Where do I even start? So the whole, process of us doing this week, focusing on art journaling, I deliberately picked this medium because I feel like it lends itself best to that childlike feeling of I'm just experimenting, I'm just playing, I'm just having fun. I don't think we really questioned ourselves or beat ourselves up as children playing with crowns and coloring pencils the way that we do now as grown-up women, criticizing ourselves on how we put a sticker down or how we put paint on the page. It's funny how that happens. But see, if I know that if I hadn't started somewhere, I would never have known, my passion and love for incorporating odd vintage pieces into my work, or how much I loved incorporating the honeys into my work. That came over time. That came because I was willing to just experiment and try different things. And the best part is I'm not comparing myself to anybody, and you shouldn't compare yourself to anybody. This is me doing something, and maybe you look at it and go, that doesn't make sense to me, that doesn't do anything for me. And that's totally fine because you have your style and the color palettes that you like and the things that you like to play with. And so this is what we're doing, is playing in a really fun playground. And I want to help you get over the fear of the page, the big white page, if that is something that you often deal with. And we have a lovely prompt right here on page 133 of our art journal called Experiment. So I think this is a lovely place to jump in and get our crafty on. So let's do that. Okay, so here we are facing our first hurdle. For those that get nervous and look at that white page and go, my gosh, where do I even begin? One of the great things about doing these art journaling pages is that they are built in with a little prompt. So at least you have some kind of guidance to get you started. And this prompt is experiment. So that can mean many things. That can mean, for me, experiment with some materials I've never used before. It could be positioning my materials in a way I've never done before. It could be using things like paint in a way I haven't done before or at all. Maybe it's using a stamp set you've never used. Maybe it's looking up some ideas on YouTube, things that other paper crafters and art journalers have done that looks interesting, but you've never been willing to try. I have a little box of some mixed media supplies I've never broken into. So that's what experiment means. Think through what would feel like an experiment to you. What have you not ever tried, done, used? This is the platform to do it. Now, I think what I'm going to be doing is working with my watercolor paints, and I wanted to deliberately show you something to just help you get started. Let's put something down on this paper so it's no longer white. And one of the great ways to kind of jump in and get started with things like this is using a scrap box that has lots of random things. And let's just try to get rid of the white for right now. So in this case, I have like part of a magazine in here. I have a hymnal in here. I have some scrapbook paper, an advertisement. I have a picture. Just don't think too much about it. We're not being graded, and no one's going to be over your shoulder watching you. This is supposed to be fun. So just pick some things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. Grab out some magazines, rip up the pages. You can separate, you can cut words out of magazines, and nothing has to make sense. If I want to put down a picture of of Audrey Hepburn and a bottle of Wesson oil, I want to do that. I don't have to explain it. It doesn't need to mean anything. It can just be, I liked the fact that I liked her shirt with this blue and green color. I just thought it was a funny, a little story. Whatever that is, it doesn't need to be explained. That's what art journaling is. It's just like this freedom of expression. So you don't have to explain it to anybody, nor yourself. You don't even have to think about it too hard. So I bought this pack of advertising on Etsy, and I'm just going through and seeing if anything jumps out at me. Wow, there's so many things that no longer exist anymore or look so different. This big giant glass. I really like this Wesson bottle. I think if I use anything from this pack, it's going to be that, I'm thinking. Or I see a little coffee cup in here, and you know coffee's always fun. Maybe I'm going to leave those two out. At this stage, let's just gather things together, okay? Let's see what really speaks to us. So don't feel like you instantly have to start gluing and putting things down. Let's just kind of sift through our supplies, your scrapbook paper stash, those little bits and pieces of things that you know that you use part of and not all. Just kind of sort at this point. You're just kind of sorting through. You don't have to make anything permanent. These are some fun tickets that I bought. Okay, so I'm going to use one of those. I love a good ticket. Here's some paper from the Reset Girl collection. A library card. Just a piece of map. A playing card that has the queen on it. While you were out. A cityscape. Sometimes I will pack little pouches and envelopes full of things that maybe I want to use as a special project or when I travel. And those are always fun to kind of go through and see if there's anything good in there that I want to use now. Sometimes you might grab things simply for the color. It's not because they're like an amazing ad or picture. It's just because they have an incredible color. Sometimes you might want to just focus on the color of something versus what it says or what it actually looks like. Here's a little quote from Pinterest. That's another fun thing I like to do is find little quotes and things. Pictures off the internet. I will print those out and throw them in here so I have some fun stuff like that. Scraps like this that seem like, what are you going to do with that? Keep stuff like this because you never know. You could make a really cool mosaic or strips of something, and just that little tiny sliver of color or pattern can look amazing. Here's a fun girl. Some stickers. I love these like craft paper stickers. Okay, so I think I have enough material right now. Just wanted to grab some things and see what happened. So sometimes I get so excited about like what I gathered that I wish I could squeeze it all into one page, but it really doesn't work that way. There's only so much real estate. And I want to make sure that I have a little bit of white space, that I don't, cover every single inch. I want to make sure that there's some kind of room for writing, even if it's like adding a little extra, writing space to do that. So I am, at this point, testing things out. One thing I love about the bingo card is the color. So that's the one to beat right now. The one that's really capturing my attention. I love this. This is actually one of the little paper samples that came in a Studio Calico little pack like forever ago. So I might want to keep that. Here's my little cup of coffee. floating over the city. I love her so much. I love the little planner girl. See, this was my very first magazine cover because I've always thought those were so cool, is to have like a magazine cover. So that is, I carried that into my own collections because I loved making that one so much. So I'm going to cut out Miss Audrey. She has this lovely dark shirt on. She's such an awesome contrast to the background that I feel like this could be really cool if I just take the background off of her. And that's another way of looking at the word experiment, is trying things like that. Don't use a die cut exactly the way they manufactured it. Cut it in half. Alter it somehow. That can be your experiment on this page. Okay, so there. That's probably going to be amazing no matter what I put behind it or on it or near it because it's such a striking picture. So I am now going to experiment with a hymnal page. This is a really old hymnal. I might take this bingo card out at some point. He might be too much. The fun thing about this Viewmaster Pocket is you can put something else into it, like a library card or a guest check. Like that could be the journaling element. And then, oh, okay. I just thought of something. Okay, so the bingo card just lost its place because I have shifted now. This page is kind of revealing a story to me. On my 40th birthday was coming up, and I was thinking, you know, most women hate their turning 40. Oh gosh, it's like this horrible age, and I was afraid that I would end up feeling that way. So I wanted to do something really fun and just completely different outside of like what you would typically do on your birthday. So I asked my mom if she would come with me to New York City so I could stand on the top of the Empire State Building for my 40th birthday. And she said yes. So we had such an epic trip together. It was so much fun. And we went with the idea that it would be like our first and only trip to New York City. But I think we were like there the second day and we're like, okay, we have to come back next year. This place is too incredible. So when I found this card in my little pile, it reminded me of that. And it makes me think of this. And I have seen so many of her movies because of my mother introducing them to me. I think My Fair Lady is actually my favorite character she's played, which I've watched with my mother many times. We went out to dinner many times. My mother bought my very favorite childhood toy. It was my top 3, I would say, was my Viewmaster, so that makes me think of her. And I have waited many, many hours of my life waiting for my mother to finish her coffee. So yes, all at once, that little vignette came together. So I'm not sure how they're all going to end up on this page, but I'm experimenting. And that's what we can talk about, you know, as a prompt, is just the act of trying things out. That in of itself is an experiment. So I feel like this piece down here with her. Kind of, that right there is a good anchor. And I love this hymnal, even though I didn't grow up singing hymns at all. I love the fact that it says, I love to tell the story, because this whole page has a little story now. So, and I'm just kind of using this Viewmaster is just going to be used to hold some things. I'm probably going to, this is so funny, you guys. I literally just turned around to look for something, and our picture was sitting on my bed. I have this, it hangs in the RV in my craft space. So this is me and my mom on top of the Empire State Building on my 40th birthday. And if you've ever been up there, they have these little phones that you can like listen to as you move around the observation deck. And so the phone, if you're listening, it's this cab driver. I think his name is Tony, and he's telling you what you're looking at and explaining the view. It is a really cool, interactive, little fun thing they have up there. But this just happened to be sitting on my bed. I have 3 of them, and this is the one. So this is the story. So I'm going to, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Because this is the beautiful green that I gave up from my bingo card. I'm actually going to take a picture of this with the whole frame and everything, and print it and get it onto this page, and that will be my pop of color. So I'm looking for my phone, actually. Here it is. Look at that. It just like totally impromptu, totally came together. This will actually mean I have to use my photo. Here, let me hold it like this. It means I'll have to use my photo printer, which I don't have a lot of experience doing. But hey, this is about an experiment, right? And isn't that funny how that just all came together? That happened to be the picture sitting out there. It was like it was meant to be. So I think with that really pretty bright green picture frame and all that, I'm probably going to have to decide. Maybe I make the picture kind of small. Maybe that picture actually becomes part of my pocket, like I just tuck it in there. I'll have to think about that, how I want to incorporate that. I love Audrey, but it might be that I remove Audrey from this story and I put our picture in there. I don't know though. Audrey is such an iconic, to me it's an iconic New Yorker because of Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that was something I was all about when we were there. I was trying to hunt, I wanted to hunt down the actual building that they filmed it in, and I was very much, I very much like dragged us around all over the city looking for, you know, movie places, like scenes from movies and stuff. So I feel like she belongs there. We'll just have to make it work. As Tim Gunn would say, make it work. So I will find a way to incorporate our picture. Maybe it's just really small and it's like right here. Maybe that's the size it needs to be. Okay, so Mr. Crafty helped me. I think this kind of just taught me a lesson about that I need to get my photo printer and make it handy. So I'm cutting out a picture of my wonky photograph I just took. Okay. So I have my little apple of my eye. It's a picture of me and my mom. So this makes me decide. Ooh, can't put it on top of the Empire State Building. It might be that I love to tell the story is going to get covered up. Because sometimes you just can't have everything. And I will be the first to say, a lot of times when you do stuff like this, you're just constantly kind of shifting things around until you find just the right place. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Okay, so maybe I don't need the cup of coffee. I'm just experimenting now with. I feel like there's enough green on this. Speaking of green, nope, that looks weird. And the other thing too, I noticed when I've been doing stuff like this is I've as much as I think I love something when I start, I notice that you can get so involved in the process that you're just like pulling things off that you've started with, and then by the end of it, you might have a completely different picture. But that I think that's part of the process, and I think it's a really good thing, you know, that you don't fall in love with anything and that you're open to trying new things, because sometimes something you'll try that you weren't, you know, as open-minded to do might be the best thing you've ever done. It might make you start crafting differently. Like, I feel like that's what happened to me because I was willing to try things, is it affected my crafting and how I do things now. So I kind of like this, but one of the things that's kind of bugging me is I feel like there's not enough color in it. So let me try. Like if I just had this odd strip of color right here. I kind of like it. I don't hate it. Here is some map. That's Spokane. I think this is close. This is at least east. This is at least East Coast. Another actress that me and my mom have loved together is Miss Doris Day. I could fit Doris on here. Woo. Let me put that down here. Let's see. Now what I really want to see is a circle. And I want to see it like right here behind the picture. And maybe here. That means I need to start putting some pages, some stuff down here. I like that. Okay. I think that's kind of cool. I think I'm going with this, and then I can lay down washi or some stickers to continue adding like some other shapes into the picture. So I'm going to take a picture. Okay, so I took a picture of that. So now I can recreate this page. And and even though I do that, I still feel like I'm never going to get it back exactly the way I had it. So I'm going to pull these up together. Okay, so the thing that needs to go down is this way. And I do think the rough edge will look better, so I think I'll leave it down like that. Okay, so the cool thing about this is I've had this, I don't know, maybe 4 years, three or 4 years, and now it's finally getting a home. It's finally getting to be part of something. Okay, so I know approximately I lined that up with the top like so. Okay, so originally I had this little picture here, and it's kind of interesting. I'm going to zoom you in if I can. So I'm trying to line up the picture. There's different ways of doing this, but like what my eye wants to see is I want the top of the picture to line up with the skyline. That's kind of like what my eye sees. Now another way to do it is to make it deliberately like half the distance too. Like see how there's a natural line here, and that means your eye goes right across the skyline as well. So to me, it's either that or down here. Now if I pull it down here, what I like is the fact that I could get a round shape back here, which could be something like one of my punched circles that I have. So I have different types of circles. Some are punched storybook, some are punched just patterned shapes. I definitely want to put color in this. Okay, so let me I think these colors will clash with the strip that I'm going to put down. So that is like a gold, and then I could have something else there. Okay, so I'm going to try another option, which is that's kind of fun. But silly. Oh, and you guys can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so I'm looking for different things I can put down on that circle. This die cut is way too big for that. And so is that one. So those, the scale of those is too large. Okay, so I'm going to cut. A little bit of a water spill. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this down so I have a little pop of color. I think this is a color situation. So I'm looking this by color, not by like location or anything. Okay. And then I'm looking at my picture here. So this one was right here. I wonder, no, it's too busy. Then I'm going to put this that one's really dark. I should go back to this. Okay, but I feel like I want to put something in this corner. I have not resolved that issue. And I'm also missing a ticket. One of these. Let me see here. Aha, it was over here. Okay. Ooh, that blended in there really well. Okay. I still want to get something going up there. And then I'm going to use this guest check as something to journal on so I can tell the little story about this particular trip. But I need to finish this corner. It's driving me crazy. I'm not sure if this is the solution, but I just wanted to see for myself. What if... Okay, so what if I cut out this clock? When you get caught between the moon and New York City, the best that you can do is fall in love. I have no idea why that song just popped into my head. None. Or why I chose to sing it out loud to you lovely people. Okay, so I think that is that's my closer. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm trying to decide if she still makes sense. Does Doris Day make sense in my little story? It really changes it if I put it up there. See, that looks good up here. I don't mind that. This part's good. I feel like this, I don't know if this is... The thing that I do like, though, is like knowing that it's all an experiment. Even if it looks like everything else, you know, that I typically do, I know that I experimented with some things. Okay. I'm putting down my clock. Okay, and then I'm going to put down, some gold letters, because everything's better with gold letters, right? I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to start it on the clock face, just to be different, just to experiment. And if you're interested in taking a closer peek, let me see if I can. Sometimes the camera doesn't want to go where I'm working. Okay. So I'm working right here. At CI, now I think it would look better if I dropped it down to a second row. There we go. This is not my strong suit, putting down alphas, I have found. I know there's all kinds of tricks to doing it, but I am kind of a lazy crafter, okay? I'm just going to be honest. I've said it. I'm lazy when it comes to doing stuff. I have decided that like I'm going the opposite way. Instead of being perfect, I'm like, if there's a ruler involved, I feel like I'm just less likely to want to do it. Okay. I'm trying to get the eye off the sheet. Trying to get the dot over the eye is interesting. Okay, so I'm not done gluing it all down though. So I'm kind of like tacking it rather than gluing it completely down. It's like tacked here and here. And actually this is sticker paper, which I just remembered. Okay, so there's that. Now, if I wanted to, I could totally just like slightly like tack it down, this one that says play, because honestly, that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to be a fun little card in the background. It's not going to serve any other purpose. So I'm going to tack it down. So this will, okay, so that's going to get tacked down. And then this piece here will be loose. And then I'm going to put the date on here, and not the date that I'm, oops. Sorry about that, campers. I keep forgetting to check to make sure you can see what I can see. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the date on here, but not the date I made it, the date that I took the photo. Which I actually don't have the year, but that's okay. I'm just going to put the date, which was my birthday. So I'm going to put that on there. And that'll take up some more of this delicious white space right here. That's right, I'm putting it down right in the skyline, yo. It's going right across the top. I'm being bold. I'm a rebellious crafter. Like right there. Ooh, you guys. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on either side of the building. Okay, so this is what I love about clear stamps, is that you can see through them and decide if you like it. So I think that's a little bit too, I feel like I want it to be a little bit more snuggly. Like have them cozy up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, here we go. And I'm thinking I'm going to use my Old Road, which is kind of charcoal. It's not black. It's like a graphite gray. See, I'm just tamping it down using my little stamp pad. And the thing I love about these guys is that they're so comfy to hold. They're so easy. They have like this built-in little handle. I feel like I need to sing their praises before they disappear off the face of the earth. It's like, you guys, go rescue them. If you see them online, buy them. You won't regret it. Okay, please stamp good. Okay. Woo! Looky that. I love that. That is called an experiment. That is playing around and trying something new. Me and my mom were city girls that day. It was a really great birthday. We went all over the city. I got to go to Serendipity. Went to Tiffany's. Ooh, I have some clips. Okay, but I still have what feels like some blank spots I want to. Okay, so this. Okay, so I'm going to, this is one of my faith roller stamps. It says God is good. So that's what I'm putting on here. I really lucked out with the mom lottery. Could have got any mom, and I got mine. The other thing, what was I just thinking? Oh, I wanted to put something on this little thing. Okay. Like this, which is going to be, this is going to be challenging to see if I can stamp this where I want to, given the fact it's a roller stamp. Roller stamps are so persnickety. Oh, okay. We're good. I got it on there approximately in the little space I had to work with. Okay. I wonder if that would... Is that cute? It kind of looks like it was supposed to be there, huh? I'm trying to decide if there's any benefit to having this big open hole right there. I feel like that kind of makes it more fun. And it looks like it was part of the advertising in a way. And then it kind of ties into the guest check. So I actually am going to use this little advertisement. That's fun. I just thought of something though. Hopefully, okay. I didn't want to glue down on the actual paper underneath. Okay, so that's there, but I'm not done yet. There's more. I have more washi. I feel like there's just more embellishing to go. This kind of stuff is like, I feel like I'll know when it's time to quit. Right now I'm like, you know what? I didn't use enough washi in this layout. So it's not time to be done yet. Okay. Let's actually turn it around that way. Okay, that just added more color. And then I feel like something needs to be up here, but I don't know what. No, no. No, I don't want it to be like obscuring anything. It needs to be subtle. But let's see what kind of stickers I have to go with this scene. I feel like one sticker wants to be here. But which one is it? Is it maps? Who will reveal itself? I have a lot of duplicates in here. A lot of duplicates. Ooh, I like this one. It's like a little map. That's better. Okay. There is no honey on here, so I feel like we could put a honey. But if we do, I want it to be like subtle. She's kind of subtle. I love these type of stickers. Okay. Ooh, the bracket stickers. So my question is, what happens if you put a bracket around? I don't know. I want to experiment and see. Nope, it does not lend itself to that project. Ooh, here's some calendar stickers. Okay, well, that's a big old pile of stickers. I think that's what I wanted from there. Okay, so okay, so I think I'm going to call this good for right now. Although, see, as soon as I said that, the second it came out of my mouth, I'm like, you know what? I see possibility. I like this little clock face right here. And I'm gonna do that. Document. This is an Allie Edwards roller stamp. Document. So doing little stamps, adding like little words here and there, it just kind of, I feel like it adds a little bit of texture to the page. So this was my my response to the experiment prompt, which I'm going to count that as scrapbooking because that's not something I do. I generally do not include pictures, but I felt like it was meant to be. And all my little elements, you watched the whole process, all my little elements started telling a story, and so I felt like that was what it ended up being, which is really funny when you think about what was actually here when I first started. So that was the experiment prompt, and I want to probably do another one. This will probably be like the longest video in the whole Camp Reset, which I hope you don't mind, but they are sectioned, so at least they're easier if you have to come back and watch it later. You can hopefully find where you are looking for. So I'm going to flip the page and I'm going to look for another prompt to work on and talk a bit more about the process and starting from some baby steps. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the page and we'll start over with a whole new prompt. Okay, we're going to jump into another page, and this time I want to show how to approach the white page with a larger element that you can use to just make it disappear. So one of the things that is like a go-to for me is just covering that paper with more paper. I found this mixed media designer paper pad on, I want to say scrapbook.com is where I purchased it. And it has just like paper that's more like a background type of paper. And it's definitely thinner than the typical scrapbook paper. So I thought I would use this as a background element and then put a piece on top of that. So I decided for this particular page, the prompt is letter to my grown-up self. I pulled out my little file folder of, like I have all these pages that I pulled out of magazines that were just like interesting images that I thought these could make really good art journaling pages, something I could easily, put stickers or, like a text on them. So this particular ad stood out to me. It's an ad for foam conditioner, but I loved her little balloons. I loved how she was kind of floating away. She was really cute to me. So I'm taking her. I started cutting her out for a previous project and then just didn't do it. So I think this is her day. I think she might make the cut. So I think she is going to be part of my letter to my grown-up self. So with that in mind, now I want to be more intentional about the background I pick for her. And not that it needs to make sense or anything. And I actually am not a fan of blue, especially this color blue. So I'm going to cover up her little flower petal skirt. And I have a little punch that is new to me, and I just so love this little punch. But it is these little teardrops. So I thought what I would do is use them. They're so hard to get off the table with my nails. I thought what I would do is kind of make her a little skirt of them with the little petals and just covering up the blue that I don't like. And I don't know if that's going to be successful, but I thought I would try it. So given the fact that this color is going to be covered up, she can pretty much go on just about anything. It's just a matter of, do I like the background color? This is like that kind of chippy paint, old paint. Here's some boards, letters, a wood heart. I like this paper. I also like this dark one too. It's very dramatic. But I think I'm going to go with this one. So I'm going to peel that out. So this is another way you can just kind of work with something other than the bright white paper that can be a little intimidating. I'm going to trim off this little strip. It looked like it had a perforation in it, but it really didn't. So with these pages, you can either start under the prompt like this, or you can just cover the entire thing up and just work from the top to the bottom. I kind of like the prompt there because it reminds me, of what I'm doing. So I probably will start under it. And I like the orientation of the paper this way because most of the design's over here. And she's going to end up taking up this side of the paper. So I think this stuff will still be visible. So in order to get this on here, I'm going to go ahead and rip out my page and put this off to the side for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and glue stick the area in which I want it to stick to. And I'm just going to kind of run my glue stick down. Okay. And then I am matching it up with the top so that it's nice and even. Okay. And then I'm going to press it down like this. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to flip it over and then use the edge of the paper as a guideline to trim it. Okay, so now I have my page all set up here. I'm going to finish cutting out her and her little balloons. A little awkward here. I love cutting. Usually for this type of fussy cutting where it's so much more detailed, I like my smaller scissors because they're easy to get in there and manipulate around all the detail. I might even keep this little strip of city right here because I like that part too. So I'm going to leave all this part, even though I don't like it, I'm going to leave it in there just to remind me at this time of what I'm trying to recreate. I'm going to decide if I should just snip it away after the fact. Before I glue it down, I'm going to have to make that decision. So, magazines make such a fun thing to use with art journaling. There's so many interesting images and ads, and when you kind of tear them apart like we're doing here, I'm just sort of separating it from, the original story is about foam conditioner and making you weightless. Well, I want to use it to tell a different story. I like what she symbolizes and how she looks so free and weightless. And that's kind of what I want to convey in my letter to my adult self, is not getting bogged down by things of the past. I definitely am one of those people who tend to dwell on things. And to my own detriment. It's never a good thing, ever, that I do that, because I'm not dwelling on good things. I tend to dwell on negative things, even though I'm I think I'm a very positive person in how I think. For some reason, when it comes to my past, I tend to dwell on all the mistakes that I've made, the things I've done wrong, what I wish I could do over. And it is such an exercise in futility. There's like literally nothing anyone can do about, their past. And so I really love the idea of like these weightless, billowy little thoughts are kind of carrying her off from her past. That's the little story that I have in my head when I look at this. And so to that point, that is kind of like the fun of art journaling, is it's such an interesting and creative way to look at things differently and to tell a story using images. And I kind of accept the fact that I'm not much of a memory keeper. I love taking pictures. I have lots of ephemera and things that I've collected from all the many things I've gotten to do, but I don't seem to be inspired to like document it, like really commit it to paper. But this kind of stuff I love doing all the time. So that's kind of fun, keeping this part of the image in there. Now her foot is going to have to, actually what I'm going to do, instead of cutting off her foot, I'm just going to trim the top of this because that's really the issue. I don't think I lose much in terms of losing my little balloons there. And I'll move this over a little bit here, like that, to kind of tell that story. Now, I also went ahead and wrote myself a letter to my adult self as well. But seeing what I've done here, part of me thinks if I put this down, it's obviously going to cover up the majority of like the awesomeness. So what I'm thinking is I might write directly on this paper, just transfer what I wrote on here, just make myself some journaling lines. This can be a very super simple layout. I don't have to get all detail-y and put lots of artwork and stuff into it. I think that where I want to add a little bit of change is to her skirt, with my idea of covering her up in little petals. So one challenge, that you can give yourself is to look through some magazine pictures. This is part of the Clairol Herbal Essence advertising campaign. And they have quite a few girls that have different types of outfits made of petals. Here's an example, like this. This is from a beauty magazine, and it's one of my favorite things about in the beauty magazines is when they take the makeup and they break it apart and smear it and swirl it, and it's just a bunch of like bronzers and some blushes. And I just think it makes such a lovely picture. It's so interesting. I love the colors here. So to me, this is something I would totally just lay down and then start embellishing, or put like a single quote on it, using that as a quote background. That could be super fun. Here's an image. There's a prompt in the art journaling pages called motivation. Cutting her out, or just cutting out like this rectangle and putting some journaling here alongside of her. This could be a really cool motivation post. Here's another one where she just looks super fierce and determined. Here's one that's kind of dreamy. I just pulled all kinds of pictures out. I love this actress. And I loved this picture. I thought to myself, like, I could cut her out and put her in the middle of my layout, and then I could cover these little speech bubbles with other different shapes. Like, I could make my own little speech bubbles up if I wanted to. But I just love how beautiful she looks there. And I thought she could be a really good, she could be a prompt for me in just how she looks. Here's another photo that I thought had potential of being something. This is actually Carrie Underwood. And so this is something you could kind of journal around her if you cut her out. You could put her in a totally different background. Here was an article that had a little paper doll. So here's another one of those ads where it's the girl and she's holding her little coffee and she has a coffee bean skirt on. So that is an example of things you can pull out. Sometimes the magazines have like such interesting images in them. I thought this was such a cool image. These models lounging on these really old school beach chairs. So look at magazines, the images as potential models for putting in your art journaling. This is the same lady I showed you guys earlier from my vision board pages that was doing the back bend, like the upside down with her little legs. This is that same lady, and she's in an advertisement here. I loved the look on her face. I love her little freckles. So to me, this is an image that you could cut her head out and put her on a different background. You could use the whole image and then write on it and embellish like the bottom part of it. So even pictures of like people's faces have the potential to tell a story. And that's kind of what art journaling is. It's like using an image to tell a story or to underline what you're saying. And you can use it as a background and just add some journaling onto her cheek if you wanted to. So I just pulled a bunch of like really interesting things, just thinking like, here's another very motivating image. All my motivation images have to do with exercise, I noticed. So those are just some ideas of ways you can incorporate magazines into your layouts that make it really super simple, because it's not a photo you had to take and edit and print. It's just something that was in a magazine already, and it can be really fun to help convey what you want to say, what you want to communicate. And part of art journaling is doing that. Part of it's the visual way of communicating, and then the other part is actually adding some of your thoughts. You can do that through just adding some alphas. You can make a single statement through your stickers, like adding some journaling. Not a journaling, but adding just like a statement, one single statement using some alphas, for instance. Or you could add a separate label, a journaling label, and add your own little thoughts to it of what you're trying to say. It's like it can be like a little visual diary if you want it to be. And it's not about this is what happened today. It's more like, here's this thought, here's this epiphany I had, here's where I'm at in life. It's that type of diary where it's kind of like a single moment in time and a single thought you had or a statement you wanted to make about, your life or something you think or believe in. That's another fun way of looking at art journaling, is that opportunity to kind of capture your thoughts in a really interesting visual way. Oop. Okay, so I got my little cityscape down here. And I think that's super cool and fun, and it looks kind of intentional, all of it together. Okay, so the one thing I want to do is I want to make her skirt pop. I want it to be really interesting. So some of the little petals that I've punched so far, these all came from some crate. It came from this. This is one of the things I love my little paper pads for, is punching. And the reason why the 6x6 pads are so wonderful for this is the scale is much tinier. So if you got a 12x12, everything's kind of blown up. And with the 6x6, your scale is smaller, so when you punch small shapes like this, you get the detail in them, which is really nice. So I want to be mindful of the colors I'm choosing for this part of the project, because they're going to be what kind of pops off the page. So I want things that are kind of more bold. And they don't have to make sense either. I can totally see that some of my things are going to have obvious details, like this tiny little, kitty face might not be seen unless I make it the very last petal in the front, and then it's like a little tiny face that has no context. So experiment, where you're punching and the colors that you're choosing. I'm going to see, I don't know, I'm not seeing I'm not seeing a pattern yet with what I've been punching. And so far, the colors are kind of coming out a little like these colors here are kind of really dark and not what I was hoping for. I don't want a bright white with all the creamy colors. So you're kind of experimenting at this point. If you're going to add some extra detail to your work and you want to try using little punch shapes to do that, so kind of lay them out together so you can see what kind of color story that they're telling before you start gluing things down. And this actually makes a really great, this pattern right here is perfect. I'm going to do, swoop. This punch is so powerful, it flips the little pieces right out of there. Okay. It's my favorite patterns, but because this punch shape is so tiny, it might not get all the detail I want it to. Ooh, this one's good. I think I'm gently pulling off the edge of this. Okay, I think what I'm going to do here is trim. Oop. I'm going to trim this off because I don't want to have to do extra work to cover all those little pieces. There we go. See, it's never too late to pull up something you have changed your mind on. I'll zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see better. Okay, so I'm actually really liking some of these little drops. I think it's kind of the darker greens that are kind of bugging me. That one looks good. I like this with little, I like that one. Maybe that one. And then I'll push these to the side. I like that. So you're kind of, I'm going to build up my, ouch, that was my finger. Owie. Okay, so now I have a bunch of little petals from different types of paper pads that I have here. And I'm going to see how to start assembling them in some kind of so my biggest goal is just to cover up the blue. And I'm at this point I'm just going to grab them randomly. There. So there's like the first little layer of petals. Oh, actually I know what I want to do. I want to put one out here that covers that first. And then this one will go on top. It says hello. So it's almost, I think with using this, I'm seeing that you probably want to skip every other row. So like you're putting down a base. Do you want to come in here even closer? Closer still. Okay. All you're going to see is my chubby little hands here if I put the next layer on. So what I did is I put the first layer, then I skipped a layer, and then I put the layer down here. So this layer will kind of stick out over these. So I'm putting some of the pieces that had like interesting detail, like the kitty face is right here, the little face. This little word that says hello. So anything that had like some specific detail I wanted to capture, this would be the layer that I'm doing that with. Making sure it's on this. Oop. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to tuck that one underneath and this underneath. The layer of glue that I've been putting on here is very thin, so it still has, like there's still a little bit of play in it. And then, there we go. There we go. Now the tips are tucked in. And there's still some detail. I don't mind that little tip being on top at all. Okay, so the next layer, I'm tucking it under and kind of pulling it out more. So now I'm making her little skirt more voluminous than it was here in the image. So, oop. Obviously, if I was like a fabric designer, I would know, like that you have, when you make petals, you start from the kind of like the bottom. You're up because you're making sure the little tips of the petals are underneath the row on top, but I'm starting from the top down. Okay, I'm putting this wild card pattern in here, this little teal stripe. Tucking that in there. Oop, that one can't go there. That's the same fabric. I haven't used any of this one. This is fun. I have never done anything like this. See, so even making these videos for Camp Reset, this has really forced me to actually get crafty myself and try some new things. I think experiment definitely has been a very good way of approaching all of this. You know, that's a good prompt to follow for all of your creative projects, is experiment. Okay, so now I'm just sort of working on covering up any little blue things she had from her previous little dress that I didn't care for. And it's kind of funny because that was actually the first thing I noticed and liked, was the fact she had these little flower petals for the dress. I thought that was very creative of the ad company to kind of tell the story of that the ingredients are so natural. They're like fresh flowers inside. But that is not the story I want to tell here. So let's see here. This is like a, oop, I pushed over that one a little too far. So that's really fun. So she's got this little petally, layery skirt. You can tell that, like, I just, no rhyme or reason, just trying to shove them in there as much as possible. But I really love it anyway. I like the fact that it can be imperfect, because this is not a, I'm not getting judged on this one. Okay, so let's see here. Let's zoom out a little bit. I have to get better with my zooming in and zooming out, so you guys can make sure that you guys are seeing things. So I think that is just adorable. I love that. I definitely feel more than ever that I should be writing this directly on here and not just doing that like I obviously intended to do. I think that that would take away from the awesomeness of this little layout. Now, I do think that there is some opportunity to add a little bit extra storytelling here with some word strips and some alphas, perhaps. So part of my letter to my adult self included my faith. So I want to add a little bit of detail about that. I also think I want to put my alphas that I'm going to use. I feel like I want to put them right here, going across her leg. And although I really want to use gold because gold just makes such a statement, I also have these alphas too, which are like craft paper. So when you're getting started with art journaling, you can just, instead of putting pressure on yourself to like find some epic statement or a quote or something, you can just pick one word. Like just challenge yourself to pick one word to describe, what you're conveying, and practice that way until you get better at it, and then can, you start feeling it going, now I'm ready to say something bigger than just a single word. Because that's one thing I really love about art journaling is how people use alphas and words to make a little statement or quote or something. That's the journaling part, obviously. But I think a single word is great for beginners. This is my last E. Get that back out of it. Sometimes stickers just don't cut all the way through at the manufacturing plant. Could be very persnickety. I'm almost, whoop. Sacre bleu. Shoot. Don't have a zero. I don't have a no. Don't have a zero. I don't have an O. Why did my eyes say that I had an O there? Okay. So this means that I have to be creative. And so one thing you can do, should you run into this issue where you don't have a letter you need, is to look to see if there are any other stickers that you can like trim or cut. So in the past, when I've gotten to this place, I might use a C and then, for instance, grab a different, like part of the L, like I might cut here. I'll show you. I'm going to use one of my C's just to demonstrate this little trick. And I can't say it's a perfect trick and it always works, but we're going to make it work for this, for the sake of this layout that deserves it. I'm going to move my M over a wee bit here. Okay, so you can see that I put down a C. These particular letters have a way of looking like they're wonky, but they're on a line. Okay, so I'm going to take an L, which is the easiest of all the letters to do this with, and I'm going to kind of cut part of the letter I need. And I'm going to trim it on the side. It's a little too wide. Okay. It's like becoming tinier and tinier. I'm going to use my tweezers. There. I now have freedom. Okay, it's good enough. I also want to put another word strip here, which is going to be grateful. And I think I changed my mind on this one. So, and it's going to Gentle, gentle, gentle. Okay, there we go. I didn't want too many word strips on there. So, I'll put that one up there and trim it. And I'm going to put some, what feels like kind of like random washi, but this washi will add a little bit more kind of a mixed media feel. It's the same color, sorry, wrong way. It's the same color palette as this paper. So you can see it has like some numbers in it and some words which add a little extra complexity to your design. So let's see here. The words are actually at different. See, it kind of just sort of blends in. It was like it was made for that. Okay, so here's the part where I'm going to do the journaling, which I'm going to be holding my breath the entire time so I don't screw up. So let's do... Whew, okay, so let's do this. I got to get my pen. And I'm going in and will not be talking at all from this moment forward. Okay. Wish me luck. Woo! Okay. Oh, seriously holding my breath. Okay, I didn't mess up. And I actually got it on there pretty evenly. So I think that is pretty awesome. I like it's kind of simple and not too fussy. So I want to get the date on here, which I think on this one, I think I'm going to do a more, what am I trying to say? Subdued. Today is the 23rd. Okay. This one was fun. And I hope that you're inspired now to look at your magazines differently, to use them as a resource in building your art journaling pages, because they can be very powerful in that way and help you tell a story. One nice thing about this paper is it has like tooth to it. It's not super slick and smooth, so it really grips ink really well. I really like it. And this paper is so bomb. It totally it makes like stamping on it almost like you're creating this pattern. It's part of the background. See, I just stamped on the magazine and it was very smeary in comparison to the paper. I love that. I feel like it's like I'm adding texture to the background. With my stamp. Love this. So there you go. That was, I did, the only real work I put into this was her petals. But everything else was kind of created for me because I used a paper pad that had backgrounds intended, you know, for projects, I think, like this one, and used an advertisement that somebody else created, added some alpha stickers, just like a handful of stickers, a piece of washi, and some stamping, and that was it. So you can do this. Start ripping up your magazines and saving pictures, and this could be something you can incorporate into your own art journaling. Let's do another page. Okay, we're going to jump back in again to another prompt page. But what I wanted to do is do a quick recap of what we've learned so far. So here's the first page I did in this series. And this was kind of, you could look at this as overcoming the white paper by just embellishment. So these are all like small embellishments, like this was from a little pad. This was paper from a book. So it was just gathering of a bunch of different types of embellishments and covering the page with them. Then in this page, as you saw, I took a very large piece of scrapbook paper and covered the page with it, and then did minimal embellishment on it. For our last page, what I was thinking I could do is show you a simple technique of how to just smush some color onto your page really easily, because color kind of transforms it. It gives you a foundation and you can start working with it. Even if you end up covering a lot of the color, at least you got something started on the page. And that's what, you know, my focus has been in this video series, is really to help you just get over this blank page if you are a person that this causes a bit of anxiety seeing it. So this is just like packaging, the acrylic packaging that comes on our, you know, stickers when we purchase them, or die cuts, or any of the, you know, just the clear plastic wrap that comes on there. We're going to use this as kind of a little vehicle to transfer some paint. So I have my little water brush here, and this is one of my favorite. I don't know how to pronounce this company. Kuretake is my guess, is how you say it. And then I have my little paint palette here, and a little dish of water. Now there is water inside my brush, so you'd think I would just, you know, use that, but often I forget that it's there. And I usually throw this little brush into like my pouch when I travel, and a little tiny paint palette like this. I have one of these for travel, but it's pretty heavy even for travel, and I don't often think to reach for it anyway, but it's nice to have it. So if you want to consider adding that, once you see this kind of technique, you might decide that totally worth having, if nothing else, to get some of that, get some color. So I'm kind of combining two different pinks on here, which just eyeballing it, I honestly don't see the difference between the two colors, but maybe one is a little bit darker than the other. So I'm just dipping my brush in here and trying to get color all over my plastic, and it's totally okay if it kind of beads up. That's normal. I'm just spreading it all over, and then I'm also going to get a little bit of these oranges on here too, because I want to get a blushy, sunsetty kind of thing going on. And sunsets typically have different gradients of pinks and yellows. So we're going to get a little bit of that. So we've got pink and oranges, some coral. I have no idea how this will all look. Either this is going to look awesome or it's going to look not awesome. So, but the great thing is, if it doesn't look awesome, I can always cover it up with paper. So you have nothing to lose in this experiment. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, if you've never done this before and you want to give it a trial run, just use some blank paper or notebook paper, scrap paper. You don't have to do this experiment for the first time in your book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over and press it down. And as I press, I'm kind of smearing it. And it made a cool looking blotch. The interesting thing is it felt like there was very little moisture, like it's pretty dry. There didn't feel like there was much moisture. Once I got it down, it's like it immediately evaporated into the paper. So, so look, you no longer have a blank page, you have something. So this is kind of fun. At this stage, you can either add a totally different color scheme and then work from there, or you can keep building upon it and maybe, like to me, I want to get a little bit more of this white out of it. So I'm going to build a whole new, what would you call this? A whole new foundation of color. Maybe I need a little bit more water. So I did just squeeze out some water on here. I'm going to get more oranges and more yellows, I think, this time. What I'm trying to do is get more solid color on here to fill in those little holes. Your paper will get a bit wrinkly. I will say that 32-pound paper, which is what I have, stands up fairly well to watercolor. It has very minimal wrinkle to it, so I'm always appreciative of that. Yet another reason why I tend to recommend 32-pound. It just feels delicious and it really holds up to stamping and paint really, really good. Okay, so I have a bit more of like the bolder orange, flamey orange. Okay, so this one's pretty watery, so this will be interesting to see. So as soon as it goes down, I start smearing it, and you'll see like it's starting to run under the plastic. So just like push it with your finger and push the paint, manipulate the paint so it's going somewhere. Which I really like. And then peel it off. So I'm pretty happy with this. Now I have a lot of gradient because I put 2 layers of paint over there. I got a bit of paint over here, but it'll be okay because I'm thinking I'd like to see what happens if I put half of a sheet of scrapbook paper down. So it'll be part this and part scrapbook paper. I was guessing that could be really cool, but I'll have to test that theory. So this particular prompt, which I should have mentioned in the first place, this one is quote. So I wanted to do a super simple quote. I was figuring I would do my guess is I was going to try to do less like simple embellishing like I did here. My picture that I pulled out of my art journal folder was this one. And the quote that I started with in my head was, it's from Gandhi. And it always seems impossible until it's done. And I feel like that quote has had significance for me because when I've done product launches or put these big events together, some of my workshops, planning for doing all of this stuff, and it just seems so daunting. Like I'm never going to meet my deadline. It's never going to happen. That quote always kind of pops into my head. It always seems impossible until it's done. So that's what this one reminded me of, because she's just on this huge amount of paper all around her. But then when I was looking in my little Reset Your Goals kit box, this one right here stood out to me. Let's knock this out. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh yes, that's what I feel like this needs to have. So that's what I'm going with. And I haven't decided yet what else is going to be part of this. This is just my preliminary thoughts. The scrapbook paper I picked is this sort of painted cement, and it's kind of chippy. I wanted to see, I deliberately picked this palette because I thought, well, what could it look like next to this? So I wanted to kind of test it out. I love putting two different patterns or two different backgrounds together and then putting an embellishment right down the center. That's like one of my favorite things to do. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I figured I would try. I could also do like 1/3 of it and put it kind of over here so there's more of this showing. And then of course it helps if you like turn the paper different directions and see if maybe it looks better with, you know, different designs that are showing. Kind of liked it up here too. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to just be really bold here, and I'm just going to cut the paper. So I'm not doing this very scientifically, but I'm just marking it where I'm going to cut it straight down. And there is actually like a little tiny dotted line running down here, and I'm guessing they intend for you to clip that. But I'm not going to clip it. I'm actually going to leave it there because I like it. So I'm going to just turn this around. This is because it really doesn't matter. This is not being measured specifically. It doesn't matter how far off the page I am. I mean, if I had to scooch it over, it wouldn't, to me, doesn't matter that much. So that's where I was thinking of placing it. So it would be like half this and half that, which looks a little weird, I know. But if I put this here, it sort of anchors it. But it is kind of like odd and blotchy and strange. And I kind of like it because I don't think with art journaling things need to make sense. Another option, rather than do scrapbook paper, is you can find like a magazine, or like I'm just doing right here, no scrapbook paper at all. You could just make an odd looking blotch, you know, in whatever kind of colors you want to do, and then just put your photo down. It doesn't even need to add a contrasting pattern or color at all. So, or you could just continue putting paint over here. The reason why I actually didn't put paint over here is because I planned on, I figured that that's what would happen, is I would end up using half scrapbook paper. Let me, I also wanted to try a couple other, because I have a bunch of different scraps here. So I want to try a pattern that maybe is less like bold and shocking, and maybe it's a little more subtle for this project. This is one of my favorite papers. So this one has just got a little background in it, so it's still half and half. If I put it here, I'll have part of this design in it too. I don't know, I'm kind of torn now that part of me likes the idea of just doing it just with the blotch and maybe like a different type of embellishment rather than paper. I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pull out my scrap box. My scrap box has got some unique little things going on in it. Nope. That didn't Okay, so another thing I can try is map. And because for me, when I see this, I'm trying to find something that contrasts against it. And so to me, blues and greens are what I want to make it pop. That's what I want to be off the page. So if I did something like that, which this actually is the Seattle area. I love, oh, okay. I'd trim this to make it straight. I notice it's crooked. So as I'm just playing with it, moving things around, which is kind of the fun part of a project like this, is you're just sort of testing things out. And that's kind of weird and funky all at the same time. Now, I definitely want it over here. I don't want it to block up any of that. Okay. Now I really like that together. My intention was to keep this very simple. I didn't want this to be a big covered in embellishments, so I think I can add a little bit of like color with really smaller pieces. So this is quote, and it's going to be, there's a little blue shoe, because somewhere that makes sense. I like this little dude. It's like a dad coming home from work. Ooh, this guy with the clock. Love that. That's even better. So keep looking through my trays until I keep finding stuff that just speaks to this. There's a little old-fashioned important tag. This one says number 2 on it. I love this like little old ticket, which is like legit. It looks legit, but it is actually probably a reproduction. Possibly. I want something up here. I actually really like the 2. So I'm going to leave that there along with my TRG camera. So maybe it'll be something like that. And then maybe a little sparkle, possibly. Maybe there's a little flower in here. I think green or blue against this is kind of cool because it's going up against this orange and pink tone. I'm going to put this little phone dial along with the guy with the clock. And then maybe these cute little Reset Girl glasses. So I'm actually using quite a few pieces from the TRG Simple Stories. Trying to decide if I like that. I don't think I do. Okay, I think I'm ditching that. I think this is possibly enough. I love the fact that I can incorporate some office supplies into this. So I'm going to keep that on there. And then I think this, which I'm going to treat this like a quote, but let's knock this out, I think is what I'm going to put right here. And there's also some pieces on here, like this little push pin, and there's also a little clock here. So there's actually a few cute pieces that I could go in that direction. And also the stamp set has this cute little thing that says goal getter here and be productive, getting it done. So there's like super cute stamps. I think getting it done is another thing I want to add here. So what did I just decide? Let's knock this out. Okay. So this is a kit that we put together, and it has a plethora of stickers in it. It has a stamp set. It has planner tabs. I think there was washi, and we put it on sale right before we had to close the store because we wanted to like get it out there while we still had employees that could ship it and everything. So we got some sold. We do have some left over, but we haven't figured out a way to easily sell off the rest of what we have. But what I know I want to do is I want to release this kit. And I was starting to think maybe this is a kit I should save for winter camp. I know when we started Camp Reset, I said, hey guys, you can use your Reset Your Goals kit for this project because there'll be these vision boards. We're going to be talking about self-care goals, so it totally makes sense to me. The color palette would blend really well with the Camp Reset look. And I didn't know we were going to do so much like decor and stuff that we were going to design. So I'm starting to think that I'm going to redo this whole kit and make possibly, we wanted to try to see if we could make this into like a fun sticker book. And then that could be something we do for winter camp. So I think that is probably, since it's such an easy button to kind of start with that. And it's so cute. It is so cute. It all came from the workshop that I did called Craft Your Vision, because I wanted to teach people how to do vision boards in their planner. And so then we took it a step further, and I wanted to do a class called Reset Your Goals. And then life happened, and and things kind of started falling apart for us. And so I kind of rethought that whole thing, and now everything is turned around, and I have a different outlook on things. So now I'm looking at some of this really cute stuff we have and going, let's see if there is a way that we can offer it again. If it's this one-time kit we sell for like winter camp, then that would make sense. And that was all one long story to keep you company while I am gluing and arranging my paper. But I know we get a lot of different types of emails and comments in the group, and so sometimes I feel like if you know, sharing some little backstory is very helpful, so you guys have understanding of what's going on and where did that kit go, and you know, and what are we going to do for winter camp. So I just, this is a good time to tell you because you're watching this video right now. Okay, so I'm going to get, you'll notice I didn't take a picture, so I'm hoping I will remember this from my memory. Memory only. Okay, so there's my girl. She's going down. Pasted and everything. So here's my little important tag because it's important. Here's the guy. I can tell now that she was probably lower on the first version because that's pretty, it's pretty high up there now. So there's my little guy with the clock. Actually, that isn't even a clock. That is a compass. That's funny. I just looked at that and saw a guy with a clock. Well, he's part of my artwork now. It is what it is. Okay, and then I'm going to add some sticker here because I like having thing in threes. And I'm going to do maybe some pink ledger. Although that sort of blends with his... Maybe that's not the right one to do. I feel like I need something that's a little more pops. This little flower on this layering circle sheet is my absolute favorite. I always try to use it whenever I see it come up in my stash. Okay, and then here's my little roller stamp. Yep, I can totally tell that I moved this over because now this little guy is totally shifted. That is why you always take a picture. It's really hard to recreate stuff when you take it all apart. And then here's Let's Knock This Out. These are cardstock stickers, and they are so delicious. There's just something so special about cardstock stickers. They are just amazing. So Let's Knock This Out is going down right here, because that's what this lady is about to do. And then I'm going to go with this stamp which says Getting It Done in little typewriter. This stamp set is super adorable. So I feel like this little kit just deserves to have better. And so I'm thinking that's this, you're going to see this for winter camp is my guess. That's what I'm predicting. Okay. So I'm kind of putting this down over here. Always do things in threes. This is really cool because this is an actual form. I mean, it's like real from this company. It's really crumbly and vintagey, and it's from Brooklyn, New York, which is really fun. And I feel like this gets in the way of you being able to see that. So I'm taking that off. I think I'm going to put this down here instead. So I know it went up a little late this time, but the supplies list page in the Media Center does have links to a lot of the products that I've been kind of showcasing this time, including these little chalk edgers. So there is stuff in there to kind of guide you to what I see myself reaching for a lot. And if nothing else, it just serves as like a shopping guide. You don't even have to use, you don't have to use what I put up there. If I put down a watercolor palette, it doesn't mean you have to buy that watercolor palette. It means there's a watercolor palette that you should have in your kit for art journaling. Let's see. I also love this little stamp where it says Be Productive. So I'm pulling off this one right here that says Be Productive. Be productive. Okay. So where it says agent on this form, I'm going to put Be Productive. I love these stamps so much. And one thing that, from the last session where I did this page over here, it also can be nice if you just pull the page out and work just on the page itself rather than in the book. I don't care, but sometimes if you have like chunky things underneath, it can cause you to get kind of an uneven stamp situation. So if that kind of thing bothers you, you might want to just remove your page and work directly on the page like I did last time. I don't have chunkiness though. I mean, there is slightly uneven stuff because when you use the cardstock stickers, they do have a slight thickness to them. So here's another super simple layout I did. I think I just need to lay down some washi and I'm pretty much done. I'm not going crazy, but I'm deliberately trying to pick some minimal approaches also so that you can kind of see both. Like there's a time and a place to go more crazy with embellishments. To me, that was more storytelling and I wanted to include all of them. But for me, depending on what the spread is like, to me, I wanted this story to be very attached to what I was seeing. And so that story, I wanted it to be showcased because I wanted to, this is a reminder to myself about just how to look at things. Rather than be looking back, look forward. And so that was really important. So I wanted it to just be a real big part of the overall scene. In this case, like over here, just getting some paint on the page and just making it kind of look a little wackadoo. When you start adding images or some of your embellishments or just just tear a book page out of an old book, simplistic images coming together can also be very artistic and fun. And you can use your sticker stash, your embellishment stash, things that you don't tend to reach for a lot, to just do a little bit of minimal enhancement, a little things here and there. And as far as like journaling, I would probably like use this area on this form to actually do my journaling. If that's what I was going to do, because quote was this particular one, I'm letting this sticker speak for me. And so that's my journaling. This is my journaling here. And then just as a reminder, over here, the guest check being tucked into this Viewmaster pocket is the journaling on this page. So journaling is a part of art journaling. And that can be the form of many different things. It could be capturing a memory. It could be writing a letter to yourself. It could be highlighting a scripture or a quote. So it could just be putting one big word on there that means something to you. So hopefully seeing all these different approaches will give you some ideas of how you can incorporate your things into your artwork and use them in a creative way, that you don't need to fear the white page, that there's ways to just transform it instantly. And that easy button is like a big piece of scrapbook paper or blotching color on it. You can scrape paint onto your page. There's an easy way of getting over the white, which is to put something down to just get that little ball rolling. And you might find yourself getting down the little train tracks faster because you are just finding things in your stash. You've created kind of a nice toolbox around you so that you can easily pull from things. And don't be afraid to experiment. Pull weird and odd things at, like, make sure you've got interesting things in your scrap box. Buy ephemera on eBay. Go on eBay and type in vintage ephemera, and there will be all kinds of people who sell old stuff like this, if that is your taste and that's what you like. Scrapbook paper, embellishments, washi, all the things we use as planner girls, those are really super easy button things to add into your art journaling projects. And I just have a feeling if you give yourself a try, give yourself a chance to really meld with it, that you're really going to love this very free way of creativity. And it is a wonderful way of taking care of that gift of creativity. Nurturing your creativity is a form of self-care. So I really encourage you to use up the pages in your handbook. Do these art journaling pages. Don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect with art journaling. It's just this really fun way of using what you have, looking at a prompt, and what does that prompt mean to you? This is layers. I mean, this is a bunch of stuff I layered, just like I layer everything on every page. It doesn't have to be completely different from every other page, or it can be completely different. That's the fun of exploring and trying new things. This prompt was paint, which I just scraped paint onto the page and then went to town. If you want to see how I created these two, This was in the very first Late Night Crafty Club, which was in week 1, which is in the week 1 media lounge. And that's how these two came to be, as I did them live. And then you've watched me do these. I added this page is just like an old book page that I tore out. And I added her from a ModCloth ad, and I gave her a little headdress of flowers. I added just a silly little word strip and a little piece of journaling, which is actually a quote from, it's a scripture. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. So that, it was a fun little page I just threw in there. So consider that. Grab an old vintage book, like a cookbook, a handbook, an instruction book, an old textbook. Pull out those pages and use them as a background for adding images to. This is just using up a bunch of embellishments and things that were in my stash. Here's other things I did. Here is a bookmark that I have had for a super long time. It was in my stash, so I just punched it and threw it in here. I'm guessing I'll probably embellish it, probably put a honey on it, but I just put it in here as another potential piece. This is a postcard, or a card. I think I cut it, yeah, I cut it in half. This was a card that was sent to me by Colleen Atara, the artist. So I love her mixed media look, so I threw this in here. It's just a cute quote. So you can enhance this section of your handbook by throwing in other pages. This is another thing I did on the Late Night Crafty Club. This is when I spilled the wine. And I actually journaled about that right here, about how I spilled the wine on, or I didn't spill it. I keep saying that. Mr. Crafty spilled it technically, but it was a hilarious event. So that was also from the Late Night Crafty Club. And here's me adding a page that was ripped out of a canceled library book. I bought these pages off of Etsy. I don't remember how I looked it up on Etsy, but there were some sellers that just sell these old pages that are ripped out of library books, and then they just have the little library card pocket on them. So I just took the entire page and punched it and put it in here, and I added a few little pieces. And I believe I did this on the Late Night Crafty Club too. So that particular episode had I think all 4 of these pages were all done in there, how I did them. So you can go back and watch them. I was supposed to do vision boards that night, but I was so inspired working in the art journaling section that I was like, I want to keep doing this. So I switched I switched the theme that night because I was just having too much fun. So in this section here, this is prompt is childhood and this prompt is book nerd, and I happen to have these in my stash. So I did something bold, and I just pasted them in there, and I'll have to work around them. Oh, this is not pasted in there. I just must have tucked it in here. This one is. That one's pasted down. So I just thought I'm just going to throw it in there. So I just love this little bicycle. I wish I owned it. It's in all these like cute pastel colors, and it totally reminds me of, I don't know, not that my bike was this cute, because it was not, but there's just something so childlike, kid-like about this bike. I just love it. So I wanted that to be part of my childhood story, because I really loved riding my bike. And I also have, I feel like I must have skipped it, but I also, there it is. On the page for Happy Camper, I have this old advertisement for the Girl Scout camera, which I own this little camera. It's this little, oh, I don't own that exact camera apparently. I own this one. So I thought, that's super fun. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put some of my little Camp Reset from the souvenir kit as an example. I have these cute little square cards in here. So we deliberately put ephemera into the souvenir kit so that you could use them in your little handbook as part of your, for memory keeping. So like as an example, this is the Happy Camper, and I might incorporate this in here. That would be cute. And then a few other little pieces. So when you are going through your the prompts here in this section, the next one's alphas. really consider how you would interpret each of those prompts. And if it doesn't speak to you and you simply cannot think of a single thing, do not be afraid to just put some correction tape over that and make up your own prompt. You can do a one-word prompt like yellow. You could just pick a color and let that be what prompts you. You could pick the word happy. You could pick the word joy, creativity, candy, sweet. There's like, just go to thesaurus.com, type a word in there, and it'll come up with a list of similar words, and then pick one. Like, make up a challenge for yourself if you have to. But I hope that the examples that I've given you have given you some ideas of ways that you can get over the white page, get something going to help lead you in a direction, even when you're not sure where it's going to take you. I mean, you guys saw that what I generally had for this page pretty much evolved and changed, and most of what I had went away. And that can happen, and that's the wonderful path, that creativity can do. And then sometimes you come in there with a plan, like I did here. Like I had in my head when I saw this advertisement that I wanted to use that piece someday, and she just, I don't know, she just felt like the right piece. Sometimes your little stash pieces will speak to you and it'll just feel like the right thing. So tear up those magazines, rip up some books, go to the thrift store, buy some old vintage books, maps, a Bible, a hymnal, whatever speaks to you, and just rip up those pages if vintage is your thing too, and start incorporating it into your art journal. I hope that you enjoyed this little series, and I'll see you in the next video.